But we have more work to do. So just to remind you, that call-in number, if you feel led, is 662-469-5533. We can Venmo at Palmer Home-4Children or text this year, SuperTalk to 50155. But joining us here on Good Things is Miss Amy Brown. She is one of the board members here and has an incredible story, too. So welcome, Amy.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So I'm always curious in terms of like with board members, because you guys have to make a lot of decisions and oversight to what goes on. But what led you to Palmer Home? How did you find your way to this organization?
So my first touch with Palmer Home is I grew up in Columbus. I'm a Columbus native and knew about Palmer Home as far back as I can remember. And family members in our church growing up, had some relationships with children. And I've always had that back of my mind. And moved to Hernando 26 years ago and hear about a campus and, not far from our little home off the square in Hernando, and said, well, wait a minute, I know about Palmer Home. How can I get involved? And, there's volunteer and there's chances to do this and pray for Palmer Home. But way back, the Lord brought a child into our family's life, and or maybe we were brought to him. It's just a wonderful, sweet story about Nick coming into our lives. He turned 22 this week.
Wow. How old was he when he came into your life, Amy?
11, and he played baseball with my oldest child in the rec league here in Hernando, and it was just he's just a great kid, and they got along, and just that seed was planted in the Holy Spirit, just saying, hey, wait a minute, how can you get involved, or what can you do? And we used to call that sponsoring a child, which sounds kind of financial, but it's more like a mentor program, and began to just say, hey, how can we be a part of Nick's life if this fits? Saw the Palmer Home Christmas parade, and there he was standing on the fire truck, and it's just a great way to show our community, these are just kids who just want to be a part of our community and our schools and our kids' lives. And we already had 4 boys at that point, and we were by most standards full up. It was
house full.
It was a house full. And,
full house. Yeah.
But Nick just blended in seamlessly from the get-go. But it took a couple of years to bring him full-time into our family, and we began fostering. And now, of course, at 22, he could give or take, legalese and titles and names, but he's ours, and we're very proud of him. And he's just as much as part of our family as any of them.
Amy, what I got from your story was that Nick played ball with your son, and so sometimes we think of the children here at Palmer Home, they're coming from somewhere else, or they're outside of our communities, or I don't know, and then they're different from us, but they're not. There could be kids that are playing ball with your kids who are, in school soon with your children, who are in the same, communities and neighborhoods, but at home behind closed doors, it's just not picture perfect. No. And they may find themselves needing to be rescued or have a respite somewhere else. And so, when you can think about it like that way, then you're helping someone genuinely just like your kid.
Exactly. And that's what makes it easier, I think, for people to say, or they hear our story or other stories, and they're like, but that seems so big, or that seems like I don't know that we could do that, or we've got girls and I don't think I could bring in a boy, or is there one and versus 2 or 3? When we feel overwhelmed, that's not God speaking to us, right? That fear comes from the enemy, and to say we can do only what we can do is a great place to start.
And I feel like, Amy, your story, you started by just getting curious about Palmer Home.
It took months of me saying, what is this? Or, what will this even look like? And like I said, we went from the ball season in the spring really, to the Christmas parade until the next spring, reaching out to Palmer Home and saying, what would it look like for us to become a part of Nick's life? And to start that process, of course, there's the vetting We want to make sure that it is, a good fit. And I see that now as a board member, even more on the backside of it, the operations side, to say, okay, not just everybody, because it's when you commit to being a part of a child's life, just like as you would think, you don't just walk in and walk out, or you don't just put your little pinky toe in and say, well, I kind of want to do this, or it should be a prayerful decision, and it should be careful. And of course, we vet everybody to make sure that you're ready for this.
As a board member in an organization who has been putting kids' needs first for the last 130 years, it makes me as a supporter to know that you guys are making sure that just not anyone can come in, even though there's a need, and it would be easy to just rush the process, but the intentionality of making sure it's a good fit, it's a safe fit no matter what,
of course,
is definitely something that to hone in on and recognize.
That takes a lot of resources.
Right.
That's what I also see. The money that is raised today, the money that's raised, just by every donor coming in the door, goes to resources that maybe we don't think about. Everybody thinks about our house parents, which are just critical, right? Those frontline, wonderful people who care for our children on a daily basis. But there's social workers, there's case managers, there's all kinds of staff, our educators and trainers, things, to help families like we were back in 2014, 2013, to become vetted, to get trained on what it means to take on a foster child. All of that takes resources on campus, and then for the families like ours to come in off of campus. It's a great help if this is something that you feel the Lord is calling you to do. Of course, it is a financial, there's a financial aspect to it. Being a foster home, but it's paid off for our family in just thousandfold. Our kids would not want anything different than Nick to become a part of our family so many years ago. But just to everybody that's listening, foster families, it sounds like a very big, daunting task, but there are so many people here at Palmer Home that can help you. Just if you're curious, like you said, it starts with a curiosity. Please let us know, because it's so great for kids. Even we started with Nick for years, just taking him on summer vacations on a holiday weekend, just an afternoon, and bringing him back Sunday afternoon, that kind of thing. So it can start very small.
And I think too, the curiosity is a big thing. If you've got that little thing in the back of your head, right, the little nudge in your heart, that's what you lean into. And for others, they're like, I don't have that, and that's fine. So you can get curious about Palmer Home in other ways and help support those families that do have that calling and do feel that need by adding to the financial piece to it.
So
calling 662-469-5533 or texting SuperTalk to 50155. I go back, Amy, to Dagan, who's one of the house parents here who was on Good Things earlier, who said, there's no magic number. Like if we get to that, Palmer Home's set and secure. Like there's no magic. Like, it's an ongoing process.
Until we run out of children,
right,
that number will always grow.
It will always grow. And so the need is always going to be there. When you hear wonderful totals like $104,000 now, we've got a new one, $127.40. I appreciate someone gave those. And, you think, wow, it's a big number. And it's like, yes, but there's more children that need to be helped. And so that continues to grow.
We don't, as the board looks at ways we can be good stewards of the money that is entrusted to us, how we can help each child. The special thing about Palmer, among many, but foremost for us, was seeing siblings stay together. And Nick has siblings, and they were able to be here together at Palmer Home. And we're able to, be with family now, and it's only because of Palmer Home. If they had gone into a state system, I'm not sure how that would have turned out. But I know with Palmer, like you said, the money, there's never oh, good, we made X amount, and now we know. Until the needs stop coming in, and we know this while we're here on this earth, it will never stop. And we can only continue to serve and try to help every child that's brought to us and entrusted to us.
And that's why we want you to call 662-469-5533, or just pick up that phone if you're not driving, and text SuperTalk, one word, to 50155. Whatever that number is on your heart to give, it is appreciated and it will be put to good use. Stick with us. We got more good things for you coming up next.